Hi guys, so in this workshop video we're going to be talking about servos in the UDR. Now we've had this one was in the car and it's just stopped working, it's just dead. So I've removed it from the car. It's not too difficult removing it from the car. You need to remove the body shell, driver inlay, then you'll need to remove the cover for the receiver. You can see I've just pulled the receiver out there, unplugged it, and then from underneath the servo just mounts in here. I've already taken it out. Unfortunately I didn't do a video of that, but you'll see when we put it back in how it works. So we've got the servo on the bench. Now it's just dead. Don't know why, it is just dead. What's wrong with it? I don't know. It looks like it's fit for the bin. I mean, these aren't the standard servos. These are the Power HD ones, which are a mediocre servo. Obviously not particularly brilliant as it's given up the ghost. But fortunately I had another one, a brand new one, in the pit box. So we're just going to swap it for a like one. I'm not sure if these are any good. As I say, not my favourites of brands. Samwa's a good one. Obviously expensive. Savox is a good one. But we'll put this in and see what it does. What I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to show you how I tested it. I've got a little servo tester here, which you get various different sorts of these. They're very cheap from eBay, Amazon, places like that. And it just enables you to just test the servo where it works. Also put it to the neutral point. Very easy to use. You just put 4 AA battery pack into it, and you can then test it. So I'll just plug this in. So we'll just show you how this works. You see, got a nice little 3D printed tool holder here, which again, can supply if anyone wants one of those. We can custom make it. We can put your own names on it, own logos. We've got the RC 3D Prints logo there. Great little thing just to keep your tools and all your little fixings in. This is quite a small one. We can do different sizes. So this servo tester, as I say, we'll just show you the old servo, which doesn't work, but we will just show you how it plugs in. You've got a power in here. Make sure you get that the right way around, because it does smoke if you get it the wrong way around. I know that from experience. And then if we plug in the old servo, the brown colour is the S signal. Sorry, the brown is the negative, the orange is to the S. Plugs it in. And there's 3 functions on here. You've got a little button here so you can change it from, that's manual. So theoretically, if I turn this dial, it should turn the servo, and you see this servo is not moving. Automatic, neutral, that would find a neutral point, which we'll come on to that in a minute. That's a very important thing when you're putting a new servo in a car. If you don't do that right, it causes a few problems. And then you've got there, that will be an auto, so it will go through the full sweep of the actual steering lock, or the movement of the servo. So it's not working, it's dead. I have actually just removed the screws from the back of it just to see if there's an obvious wire off, but I can't see anything. So we'll just show you how this works with a good servo. You hear it just start up. Little jittery as some of the digital ones are. So that is now in manual. You might be able to hear it moving. We can then put it to there, and it goes into the neutral position, which is important. We need it to be into neutral when we put it in the car. The other way to do that is obviously to plug it into the transmitter, which again I'll show you how to do it, because you need to make sure this is in neutral so that the horn is in the right location when you put it in, otherwise your steering will be off center. So we'll unplug that, and it's quite a simple job of changing over the servo. You've got 4 screws. You can see I have actually already partially removed these, which just holds it into the frame, which goes on the car. Don't be tempted to try and, that's 2.5 mil, not 2 mil. Always use decent drivers. When you're doing any work, always have a decent set of drivers, because if you have poor quality ones, you'll just round screws off. Don't be tempted to try and force, if you can see the screws through there, take them all the way out. They won't actually pass through that hole. So we'll just take that off. So we need to make sure we get this frame in the right orientation on the new servo. So it's easy to, when we've got one here to work to. So it comes off like that. Servo goes to that side, the servo horn. Spline, sorry, couldn't think of the name. And if we get it right, goes on like that. And if you can see, there is just some slight recesses there, which will then sit up into there. So as you see, if you just put that onto there, you can just feel, you just sit into there. So once you get the screws in, they will just snug up nicely. Right, so that's all 4 screws done up, just snug, don't need to be over tight, because what will happen is very easy to crack the servo mounting lugs on here. You don't want to crack them, so just snug so there's no movement. We'll take off the servo horn, 2mm for that. It's a little tight, that comes off easy enough. Shouldn't be any issues with any of this lot coming undone through use. Now I'm going to put this on, assuming that that is in the center position from when we just used that a few moments ago. But we will show you what to do. I don't throw the driver everywhere. We will show you what to do if you haven't got one of these testers. Now, these are so cheap. If you've got a few cars and you do a bit of work, that's just it's easy. You can just test them. You haven't got to worry about turning your radio gear on. It's just good. Now we can feel that. That's on. It's not the nicest or smoothest of feeling servos, but it's not an expensive servo. So we don't need that. Put that to one side. And what we'll do now is I'll plug this into the car, not install it into the car. I'll just plug it into the car to make sure that it is actually in a neutral position. And this is what you would do if you haven't got one of these testers. So here we have the receiver. You've got 2 channel 1s. If you've got the TQI standard receiver, there's 2 steering servo ports. Channel 1, easy way to remember, channel 1 to turn, 2 to burn. It's a bit corny, but it's an easy way to remember it. The amount of times before I heard that saying, which one is it, which one is it? If you get it wrong, your car can shoot off if you do the steering, or vice versa. So it's just a good little aid memoir to remember that. So we'll plug this in. Got to be careful with this one. It hasn't got the little orientation tags on the standard servo. One of the standard servo has a little orientation tag, which links into the little tags in there, so you can't get it the wrong way around. This you could get the wrong way around. Now I'll say it shouldn't have a problem if you get it the wrong way around, but there is a potential that you could damage the servo or the radio gear. So you want to make sure you get it the right way around. The brown is the negative, so the black you can already see on there is on the outside, so it goes to the outside like that. So it's plugged in. I have my steering set. So you've got your trim here. You want to make sure that is set to 0. That is in the middle. So that is in the middle. You will now, when we turn this on, steering servo's here. Now as you can see, that horn is almost upright. Now, because these are on splines, you could take that off and try and get that one spline clockwise to get it more upright. But I know from experience that probably with the coarseness of these splines, it'll probably go too far the other way. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. I can use my trim on the transmitter there, which I've got off screen, and you'll see this, you can see it's just going there. You can do it on the app if you want to, but there's no sub trim. We could go into the details of sub trim and things like that, but we can do it on the transmitter. This is really important because I've seen people get a servo out of the box, put the horn on in the upright position, put it in the car. When they then turn it on, it starts up and it's actually like that for neutral. And however amount of doing your trim, you'll never get it straight. So you then got to take it out of the car. In the UDR, as you know, it's a bit fiddly sometimes trying to get these things out. Unfortunately, the actual servo in this is actually quite easy to get to. You only have to take the body shell, the inlay and all this off to actually get it plugged in. Once it's actually in the car, well, you've got to take the tray underneath off it, but it's relatively easy to get to. Certainly some of the other Traxxas models, I know someone that was replacing an X-Max servo. When you replace the X-Max servo, you've got to take the whole front end off, so it's a bit more involved. So that's upright. What we'll do now, I'll show you how we put it back in the car. I'm going to turn this off. So that's off. And it's from the underneath of the car, although what we've got to do first is we've actually got to feed it up through the car to get to it. So we'll turn the car upside down. So the servo goes in here, something like that. It's got a little steering link goes in there, and the cable goes up through that hole there. So we'll feed it up through there. I can grab that from the inside, make sure it's gone through there correctly, and then all we've got to do is just fit this servo in. So we've fed this cable up through that hole, and then we've just got 2 screws. So the final bit is you need to line up your link into the steering. It's a good point now when that's off just to check that your steering is nice and free. Mine is. There's a small amount of rub on the arm, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So just need to tease this joint into there. It's gone in relatively easily. Screw. You will feel that we're not quite lined up, so we can move the steering a fraction to get that to go in there. A little bit of a wiggle. Again, you'll feel it start to go slightly tight. There we go. It doesn't need to be over tight. In fact, if you do it too tight, you will nip up that ball joint and it will make your steering stiff. So I'm actually going to back that off 1/8 of a turn. It's never going to come undone. That's fine. And then what we will do before we put all that, for all intents and purposes, that is the servo changed. Just got to plug it in again and put the plates on. But I will just check before I do any of that it does work again, or it does still work. So you can see the cable has come up through there. It then sort of dog legs through and under there into your servo box. Important to do that, because if you are one of these, well, I'm not, but if you are one of these people that runs these cars in any damp conditions, this keeps this all waterproof. Really wouldn't recommend running these in the wet, but that's another story. Plug this in, brown to the outside, one of the channel 1s, and that's in. Obviously we'll put that case back on. Let's just double check it still works. Transmitter's on in the background. Turned it on. If I just come back a bit, see the wheels. Perfect. It's working. It's pretty straight as well. As you probably know, or you may not know, you can't set the steering trim with the TSM on. You need to turn the TSM to 0 to do your trim properly. And then we can say, see the wheels moving there. That's just me sorting out the trim. But we'll do the trim when the car's actually running. You can't really do it on the bench. So I'm happy with that. That's the servo. That's the servo changed. We'll power it off. You may have seen the batteries were in the car just to do this, but I will remove the batteries now. Obviously, don't like keeping LiPo batteries in there. You will see some horror stories of the batteries going up, and it will take your whole car with you. So make sure you do the servo centering, because what will happen is if you don't center your servo on your radio gear or with one of these little servo tools, you put it all in and you'll have your steering like that in neutral, and you will not be able to get the thing to run straight. You'll have to take the servo back out. We'll put it back together. I'll leave the camera running. We'll do a little bit of a time lapse. It's not the most interesting of parts, but you can see what we're doing. So if you've got any queries on this, drop me a message or leave a comment. Please do subscribe, and I hope that's been helpful. And I hope we don't have to do this too many more times, because we've just done the Speedo, we've done servo. I'm not a big fan of the Traxxas stuff anyway, but it's just what we had to hand really. But hope that's been helpful. Thanks very much for watching. One little final tip: if you want to know which way this battery box goes on, you can't remember, you've got a small lip there, and that goes towards that bit there.